I can't believe it's already episode number 7. We've been going now every week, except for Thanksgiving week, for almost 2 months. And it's been an absolute honor and delight interviewing some really radical, awesome entrepreneurial women. And today we are going to do just the same. Before I introduce our guest, Jessica, with South Shore Permaculture, I wanted to just do a quick recap on all the things that have been happening at Live Free Academy this week. So, as many of you know, John had a Bitcoin webinar today. It was free. If you were interested in signing up, I'm going to put the description in the link in the description of this video so that you can check that out. The replay will be available here momentarily. He literally just wrapped up right before my podcast started, but a lot of people have been reaching out to us seeking information since Bitcoin's really going up in value right now and trying to understand how they can get their, foot in the door. And so if you're interested in learning about Bitcoin, that would definitely be a good place to start. We also just wrapped up the Exit and Build Health Summit, our first ever health summit. There were over 30 industry experts speaking about topics ranging from exercise, diet, nutrition, longevity, detox. It was a lot of information. And so if you wanted to keep that momentum going and really focus on your health, I invite you to join me for the 30-day health challenge, which is actually kicking off on January 2nd. I'll also put the link to this below because I know different people are interested in different topics. But, me personally, there's nothing more important than your health, and you won't really be able to give yourself fully to your passion projects or to the work in the world that you are passionate about if you're not feeling maximum energy levels and getting good sleep and exercising in a consistent way. So we're going to help folks get into that good habit for 2024. Join us for 30 days. We're doing a health challenge every day. There's going to be accountability group. You can see the diet plans and the exercise regimens. There's beginning, intermediate, advanced options for this. So if you're feeling like it's time for a change and you want to have some accountability community, this would be a great opportunity. It's called the 30-Day Health Challenge. And you also get access to all the talks from the Exit and Build Health Summit. So today I am joined by Jessica. I am going to invite her onto the show right now. Hi.
Hello.
So we actually met at Porcfest, but also through Facebook, just following one another's work, a similar interest in intentional community and permaculture. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Jessica, to our audience and share a little bit about why you're so passionate about permaculture. What is it for people who've never heard about permaculture before?
Absolutely. I did want to just say real fast, in preparation for this, I had listened to a couple of your other podcasts, your other episodes, and in one of them, you had talked a little bit about your reservations before starting this podcast. And so I just wanted to acknowledge your vulnerability in that and appreciate it. I think it's really inspiring that you had some reservations and still pushed through. And so I think that's really awesome. Also,
I still have reservations. I'm like,
right,
it's scary putting myself out there, but thank you for that.
Yeah. I also wanted to just comment before I noticed what are the odds? We're wearing like almost the same exact.
Oh my gosh. That is
so weird.
Really weird.
Yeah. It's perfect for
wow. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
So
think alike. Good, we have good taste.
Yes, exactly. So I'm really excited to be here and talk a little about permaculture and connect with a like-minded person. And I guess a little about me. I've always been really passionate and interested in food and the human experience. In my early 20s, I received my bachelor's degree in anthropology with a focus in cultural anthropology. I loved specifically the intersection between culture and food. I spent my early 20s traveling and exploring and working a bunch of different jobs from farmhand. I worked through the WWOOFing program, which is Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. It's a really cool program. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. And I also worked a number of different jobs in the food and restaurant industry. And then as I progressed through my 20s, my mid 20s, I got into yoga and started to dive a little deeper into my spirituality. I received my yoga teacher certification and taught for a bit. Then towards my late 20s, I met my now husband and I moved to Massachusetts, where I live with him, my husband, and my 2 stepkids, our dog, and our 12 chickens. I received my master's degree in gastronomy, which is essentially food studies, and I had a concentration in culinary arts. And then in my early 20s, I started my own business offering private chefing services, which included meal delivery, cooking classes, private events, and kitchen consultations. And I focused primarily on ethical eating, which at that time for me meant sourcing locally when possible and supporting businesses and farms that used regenerative practices. I eventually shifted my food interest from hospitality and kind of the restaurant side of things to gardening and homesteading and food preservation. I discovered permaculture during that time, and discovering permaculture for me really felt like a missing piece. It just encompassed so many of my passions. So I'll get a little more into that when we talk about what permaculture is. I received my permaculture design certification, also called a PDC. I went to beekeeping school and just really dove deep into my homesteading journey. And then in 2022, I started South Shore Permaculture. And it is an educational platform that focuses on community building and educational opportunities. And we offer classes and workshops and events. And currently we are gearing up for the 2024 season. So thank you, Rebecca. That's our website right there. Not to brag, but I made it myself.
Ooh, looks good.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't consider myself particularly tech savvy, so I am proud of that. Took quite some time, but also I used Squarespace. It's pretty user friendly. So anyway, yeah, that's the website. You can jump on there. It's southshorepermaculture.com. Pretty easy to remember. We are based on the South Shore of Massachusetts, so not that we won't have opportunities for people to participate remotely, but we do try to focus on our specific area. Because especially when it comes to something like permaculture, there's a lot of specificities around your ecosystem, your biome. And so a lot of what we might teach in our courses, might not necessarily apply to you in Texas or someone live in Costa Rica or wherever, right? So yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Like there's this journey of like, first you connect with like doing the meal prepping or like kind of working through like the culinary, and then you're like, oh, well then there's this bigger, because with permaculture it is bigger. Like it's not an initially, permanent agriculture, but now really more broadly permanent culture, just like in general, and having that like, wow, this is all connected. And like same thing here with Live Free Academy. I feel like there's just all of these like pegs to the wheel. Like there's so many different topics that might seem disconnected, but it's all part of the same like, journey and direction to have a more self-sufficient life. So you said you're homesteading. What's that process been like for you? So I have 12 chickens. Did you buy land? Like how many acres, and what is that like? I know with the pandemic happening in 2020, it seemed like that catapulted a lot of people into kind of living, closer to the land and growing their own food. But do you have anything to share on your homesteading journey, or for folks who are thinking about that but don't know where to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was interested in homesteading prior to 2020, but you are absolutely correct that 2020 really was a catapult for so many people to get into homesteading. And I think a big part of that was recognizing that the systems currently in place that are supposed to keep us, quote unquote, safe and provided for are not as reliable as we might have thought. And so, working towards self-sufficiency. And I hesitate to use that term because as I've dove deeper into permaculture and just my own journey, I've realized that there's really no such thing as self-sufficiency. It's really community sufficiency. And
Mhm.
so with that, I have tried to focus my energy on the specific areas that I really enjoy, knowing that in time and through networking and community building, I will find other people who will be able to kind of fill the areas that I'm not as knowledgeable in or passionate about. So it really has been a journey. Uh, we didn't buy land. My husband and I live in our house, which is on just under a quarter of an acre. So we don't have a whole lot of land, but we do the best we can with it. And so we have our 12 chickens. I did also have two beehives for a period of time. Unfortunately, they did abscond, which is not uncommon, especially nowadays with um, so many different threats to the survival of the hive. So I do plan on starting that back up, but at the moment I don't have bees. So yeah, and then we just have a number of areas to grow various crops. We have a few raised beds. We have a greenhouse. We just built last year a rain garden, which is essentially a space that you can grow plants, and it helps to capture water runoff and to give it more time to permeate into the soil so that it's not running off and off of your property. So yeah, that's and then from there, I've also dove a little deeper into food preservation. I've experimented with making kombucha and beef
Mm.
jerky and some other, pickled and fermented foods, things like that. And so that's all been really fun. A lot of like canning as well. Yeah, just all different. It's really cool. There's a lot of different methods for food preservation. So yeah,
Yeah, and if you like grow a lot of stuff too of the same things, like what do I do with all these tomatoes? Like it's good to know how to do the canning and preservation. I was making kombucha for a while. I called it Becca's Booch. And it was really good, but then we went on a vacation and I forgot, to make sure it was taken care of when we were gone. I came back and it was like the SCOBY thing was like overgrown. It was so gross. And I have had no luck making it ever since. But I always thought it would be good to have an online course about like how to make, sourdough bread from scratch or with the starter kit or how to do kombucha, like, and you just mail them the like whatever they would need like to get started, and then they watch the course. It's like, oh, okay, this is like, or how to can. We do like in Texas, the okra grows like crazy in the summertime, so it's like you would never be able to eat all this okra, but having like the pickled okra, it's like a delicious crunchy treat in the South. But I guess you're up in Massachusetts, and then you said you're on a quarter of an acre, which I feel like that's something that people also like get a little hung up on with where they live. Like, oh, I can't do it because I'm in a normal neighborhood or because I don't have enough space. But it's like, I mean, I've even seen like urban, like even on an apartment patio, like making it work, or in like a traditional neighborhood, still having chickens, or still like even with the bees, like they're very gentle usually and like very calm and chill. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your beehive too. Maybe when it gets warmer out to try that again. Yeah, the amount of land like in permaculture, right, zone 1, it's like it's even with the where we're living right now in the country, like we really only garden like within footsteps of our back patio door because it's like unreally reasonable to be walking so far out. So you really don't need a lot of land. It's like just whatever is close. We do these tower gardens. Also, I know it's not like a permaculture thing, but they've actually been really good for us here in Texas because the stuff is vertical and it can be inside because in the summer we get so hot. But do you have like any food growing tips for people who have never grown their own food before? Or like, why do you think people should care about permaculture or maybe learn about permaculture, possibly even sign up for a permaculture design course? Like, are there any suggestions that you would have for a noob who's never really gotten into it before?
Yeah. Well, you kind of alluded to it, I think, in that I think starting where you are and using what you have is really a good way to start. Start another, and also looking into the permaculture principles, which are, yes, very useful when you talk about growing food, but they're really applicable to all aspects of your life and any system, whether that's your the system that you've created for inside your home amongst you and your family members, or whether you're talking about your garden system or your community. That's one of the reasons I love permaculture, is it really applies to so many different things. So but I was going to touch on one of the principles in permaculture. I mean, they're all very applicable, but using small, slow solutions, I think, is a really good place to start. So again, really starting with what you have and just doing one thing. If you and your family love tomato sauce and you eat a lot of like pasta or things like that, then just grow tomatoes. They're really easy to grow. You don't even need a lot of space. You can do like a container garden on a porch or a patio or something, and then experiment with the tomatoes, making sauce or making tomato paste, and uh, look into preservation, whether you're going to can it or freeze it or even dehydrate it. There's a lot of different ways to preserve the tomatoes. And then from there, maybe start kind of branching out. So maybe you start experimenting making your own pasta, which you can also make it a bunch ahead of time, have like a fun Sunday pasta day or something, and make a bunch of pasta and dry it or freeze it. And then you have homemade pasta and sauce for the rest of the winter, or
Yeah.
whatever time frame you decide to do it in. And I think that every time you have a homemade meal like that, really consciously sit and enjoy what you are eating, knowing that you grew those tomatoes yourself, knowing that you made that pasta by hand with your kids or your partner or your friends, whoever, and really appreciate that, and like dig into that feeling and hold on to that feeling. And that feeling is what's going to motivate you as you move forward in your homesteading journey, because it can get really overwhelming. And I can speak from experience going all in and trying to do everything at once. You're going to burn yourself out and you're going to lose interest because it's going to turn you off. So really start small and build from there. So I think that would
Yeah,
be
that's
advice.
really good advice. And like even starting small too, if you just focus on one thing, like we found in the Central Texas area through our Freedom Cell communities and groups, that like if you really hone in and focus on whatever you're passionate about, or what if it's beekeeping and you're making honey or whatever, you don't have to do everything. You could barter that for the other goods that you need. And I saw on your website, on the South Shore Permaculture website, there was like a whole aspect of the course on community building, which I'm really passionate about, intentional community, because like you said, self-sufficiency is kind of an oxymoron. Like it's not about being isolated and being alone. It's about, stewarding the land and being in harmony with the land, and cultivating a connection to the land. And so it's like, you don't have to do everything. It's all about having other people around that can help, and that effort. But do you have anything to share on that portion of the course, or like how folks can build those local economies, or trading or finding other people in their area to maybe do permablitz work parties with, or kind of lightening the load?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that is part of why I have set up South Shore Permaculture the way that I have, that it is very um, locally focused, because I want it to be a way for people to connect and meet like-minded people. Um, my although yes, I want to be able to afford food and like pay my bills. I'm also very passionate about community building and creating a network of like-minded people in my area who can rely on one another and who can actually implement a lot of these permaculture ethics and principles. I'm I'm big on walking my talk and living my truth. And so, again, as much as I want to be able to pay my bills, my focus is not on making money off of this as much as it is creating a platform for people to connect. So last year, our course, all of our students really got along and hit it off. And it's been so fulfilling and wonderful watching everybody develop relationships outside of the course. So like one person who was in the kind of beginning stages of starting a farm had connected with an already established farm that's run by a older farmer who is kind of looking to pass the baton, so to speak. And so and
Mm.
he's struggling with some health issues right now. So he had a bunch of chickens, I think like 50 or something, that he really couldn't take care of any longer. And so he gifted all of those chickens to the student of ours who he had met. He met this older farmer through our course. So that was a really great connection for them to make. And then another one of our students works for that other student who's starting the farm. And so again, another great connection. And so seeing things like that play out has been just really has really filled my heart, and that's really important for me. And so as I continue on with this journey, I just hope to see more and more of those types of things happen.
Yeah, it's not about what you know always, but more so like who you know and having those connections. Like earlier, when you're introducing yourself, you mentioned woofing, like the worldwide organic farming where you do the work trade. I've never done it. I really wanted to, but I've always found it so fascinating because if you're like, someone who has land and you need help, or vice versa, you're someone who wants to live on land but doesn't own the land yet. It's like so cool how the cyclical process works. But we also had Paul Wheaton came out to our Land Summit event, and I'm sure you're familiar with his work, but he had this workshop on skills to inherit property. And he's like the most devastating, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but thing that he has, witnessed in the permaculture movement was uh, the desire for landowners to pass or will their land to someone worthy to continue their legacy and steward the property, but not having anyone with those skills to step up to the plate. It's like, why did you work decades of your life to do this if, maybe your own kids don't want to continue the farm operation, or if you didn't have kids that no one else, knows or is knowledgeable enough to do that. And so then who ends up scooping up the land? Like either the government or developers. And then all these local farms are just like poof, vanishing. And it's like happening at rapid pace. But I thought that was cool that he started the skip program. It kind of reminded me of what you were just saying with the chickens and how that guy handed kind of passed the baton, so to speak. But it's like there are so many landowners out there right now who need help. Like they need help desperately. And then there's so many people out there who need housing and they want to work, but it's like, okay, so just how do we make these connections? How do we build these resilient communities out? But are you guys planning to do an intentional community? Is that something up your alley, or are you feeling like in Massachusetts it's in the works?
Absolutely, yes. My husband and I absolutely intend to move to a larger piece of land or perhaps an already established community. Um, I don't know that it's going to happen on the South Shore just because it is a very expensive place to live. And we've considered moving to other areas, like New Hampshire, for instance,
Oh
where
yeah, New Hampshire, Liberty Place.
so we have a really great community up there, friends who we're already connected with, and we try to see as often as we can. So that is one of the areas we've been considering. There's some other areas as well, but as I had mentioned, my husband has two kids from a previous relationship, and they live with us half the time, and they're 15 and 17 at the moment. So we want to be close to them until they're at least graduated and kind of off on their own in the world. So also the current market is really not is not where it's at. So
Yeah, it's crazy right now.
yeah, so not buying anything right now, but long term, absolutely, we absolutely intend to move to an intentional community of some kind, and that's a big part of what I'm loving about the work I'm doing right now too. Is that I'm really having the opportunity to delve deeper into what it takes to be in an intentional community, because I think a lot of people go into them um, ironically unintentionally. And
Yeah, they don't really plan it out too much.
yeah, yeah, and I think that clear communication, expectations, having things written down, yeah, all of that is super important. So I'm glad to have the time now to learn all of that.
If people in the Massachusetts area are needing help with their property, do you guys offer that service? Or are you primarily doing the PDC courses for now?
Primarily, we're doing courses, workshops, and events that focus on education and community building. That being said, I would definitely not turn away an opportunity to implement a design or create a design for someone. It really would just depend on the situation. So, if anyone out there is interested in that, definitely reach out. But for now, my focus is definitely educating. I think that that's so important in I guess to the work that you and John do, right? Is the exiting and building.
Yeah.
We need to have the education and to feel empowered to create these alternative systems. And so that's a big part of the work that I'm doing.
It's so nice to connect with you. I feel like we have so many similarities too. You said you have two stepkids. I was like, whoa, weird. We do too. I do too.
Yeah. How
And
old are
then, that was funny that we had the same necklace on.
how
But
old
it's
are your
great.
stepkids?
Oh, they're 12 years old and 10 and a half.
Oh, okay. Those are fun.
Yeah. So we're grounded in Texas, but we like to go up to New Hampshire in the summer. Like, I always thought it'd be cool for these communities to set up some sort of like sister network where it's like for folks who live in Massachusetts, maybe you want to escape the winters. So you're coming to a warmer place like Texas, in the winter. Whereas for us, it's horrible in the summer. So it'd be cool to go to New Hampshire or something like that, have a tiny home or a community that I have access to up there and can help them with their farming and stuff. But that's
Yeah.
all, I guess, further down the road. But we are working on getting a property here in Central Texas. And so I've been working on a little rendering image today with a friend who does design. I thought it was funny too earlier today. You're like, that you designed the website. You're like, didn't usually do website design, but it's like if you're a permaculture designer, almost like everything in life you're designing. Like even when you eat, making your plate and plating is design work. I feel like people think that they can't be, sometimes it's like, well, why not go try to do your own website? You dominated, by the way. It looks really good. But yeah, it's like just take it from your head and draw it out on paper, then start building it. Like the whole exit and build thing, I think you're right. On that being a way for folks to kind of like find that inspiration to act, to like do. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's nice chatting with you. Anything else you want to add or any other information I can share? I'll put the website in the comments. So southshorepermaculture.com. And you have openings, right? So there's still some openings for your class starting January. It looks like. Here we go. Show. Does anyone have questions? It looks like there's a few people watching right now. So it's southshorepermaculture.com. Said, I'm all about this topic. Yeah. All right. Us too.
Awesome.
Well,
Yeah. I guess if I could share a couple of things.
sure.
So yeah, with the course, part of the way that I designed it and set it up was to allow people who were perhaps not interested in receiving their full PDC, their full permaculture design certification. It's broken down into 4 sections. So you have introduction to permaculture, which is a great way to just kind of learn the basics of permaculture, the history, the ethos, all of that. And then we have community building, which like a lot of what Rebecca and I have been talking about, if you are interested in learning more about building community, then that's the spot for you. And I have a couple of guest lectures coming in for that section. So that's really exciting, or at least I'm personally very excited about that. And then we have edible landscapes, which is going to focus on cultivated ecologies, food forests. Oh, there you go. And things of that nature. So you're really going to learn how to create a space that will provide you abundance and require as little inputs as possible, which is, kind of the essence of permaculture in a lot of ways. And then lastly will be Homesteading 101, where we'll get more into animal husbandry, soil health, water harvesting, and some of these other practices that are also very important to growing your own food and creating a permaculture space. We also, if you're interested in growing your own food, but perhaps not super interested in permaculture specifically, my business partner, Todd, there is going to be doing a series called Tuesdays with Todd. And so every Tuesday, he'll be teaching a section of gardening. So he'll really cover everything you need to know for backyard gardening. So maybe if you're looking to just dip your toe and you're not quite all in yet, that's also a great option. And then as the rest of the year goes on, I really want to be able to provide more opportunities for in-person events, community building opportunities. A lot of the workshops and in-person events that will coincide with the PDC will be open to the public as well. So again, maybe you don't want to necessarily dedicate your time and money to a full PDC, but you would love to show up for our movie and potluck night, things like that. So if any of this interests you, please sign up for our newsletter. And that would be under, I forget which section at the top, but it's, I think, like connect with us, maybe.
Yeah, stay connected.
There you go. So if you click on there and scroll down, also, I think if you just go to the website, it does prompt you to add your name to our mailing list. And so
there's your email.
Yeah. So you can also reach out to me directly. That's also an option. Always open to meeting new people and connecting. So if any of that appeals to you, yeah, definitely sign up for the newsletter. I try not to bombard people with emails. So it's usually one a month unless there's something special that I want to share. And so then it might be like twice a month. But you will get updates on events and courses and all that good stuff. And yeah, connect on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on there. And yeah, again, just really open to connecting with like-minded people and building community wherever you're located. Yeah, just want to spread more culture and empower people.
There is a question. Chris was asking if you have time, if you could share more about the tenets of permaculture.
I'm assuming you're referring to the principles of permaculture. There are 12. I certainly could get more into that. It might be a longer conversation, but I did touch on one before, the use small and slow solutions. So there are definitely, like I said, there's 12. So I don't know if you want me to go through all of them. But I think what's really cool about all of the principles is that there's the basic idea, and then there are ways you can apply it in an agricultural way, in an agricultural sense. And then there are ways you can apply it really, again, to any part of your life. And so, again, another example would be observe and interact. And so essentially with that, that's your first, and one might argue your most important permaculture principle, because it's basically saying, take time to observe your space, your system, your landscape, whatever it might be, and understand the natural patterns and processes that are already there. Nature is never a blank landscape. It is never a blank slate. There is always a blueprint or an outline already present that nature has provided for you. I think a lot of times the problem with conventional agriculture or conventional landscape design is they look at a space, especially one untouched by humans, and they say, "Ooh, blank slate, let's do whatever we want." again, nature already has a blueprint in place. It's up to you to sit and observe that space, to read the landscape, as permaculturists say, and find what blueprint is already in place, and then use that to inform the design that you create for that space. And that can theoretically, that can get a little more complicated, I suppose, but that's like the most basic way to explain that.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. Well, Chris, maybe you should sign up for the course in January, and then you can really dive deep. Because they're usually a couple weeks long, and it's a lot of information to go through. But yeah, like with the whole, working with the landscape too, it's like that might be more work up front to take the time to observe and understand, and how is the water falling, and this, what would make sense for the setup. But then further down the road, hopefully it's less upkeep, less time that you would have to spend to, keep with the management of it all. So it's like, let's just be clever about the upfront, thinking, and then it will help in the long run, and also to work with the land and not work against it. But
yeah, in permaculture, we talk about hammock time, which is essentially time that you're not working in your garden and you can just sit back and relax and enjoy it. And so that's always the goal, is creating a self-maintaining, self-replicating system that will require as few inputs and as little maintenance as possible. So absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to mention too, because you said with the course that it's usually a couple of weeks, ours is actually spread out over months. It starts in January and ends in the end of June, actually.
nice.
Yeah, we'll have, it's a hybrid model. So half the course is 50 hours of online classroom time. So that would really be applicable to anyone in any part of the world, I guess. And then the other half, which is another 50 hours or so, is in-person events and workshops. And so that might be a little bit harder if you're not in our general area. But it equates to over 100 hours of actual learning time, which most PDCs are 72 hours. So
instead of watching Netflix, you can shift your time and focus on how are we going to find these solutions to build a new vibrant earth. And I think in 2024, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like this is like a big year. So lots of good projects happening, but it all starts with education and really having that strong foundation and knowledge base. So I love what you're doing. This is so wonderful. Thank you for being on the show. Any closing thoughts?
No, this was great. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you creating this platform and having your focus be supporting other women. And I think that we need more of this. So I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Yeah, that's a good point too. I've always had women on the show because I think that women have had a really rough year in 2023, and we need to rally behind one another and alongside one another to, really showcase that there are solutions, there are beautiful things happening. And there's we need some more feminine energy to, really hit the scene and help transform and elevate this consciousness shift happening right now, because there's simultaneously some dark things that need to be pushed away, and yeah, the focus needs to shift is what I'm trying to say. But I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much, Jessica. Have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to share the website in the description. So we had it here, and then I'll put it in the YouTube description as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay. Wow. We actually had more people watching today than we usually do. So that tells me that everyone is really interested in permaculture. And of course, this is a topic that we explore thoroughly with Live Free Academy. We have lots of courses on homesteading and buying land, building community. But it's also a full day of information at the very at the third, I believe, day of the Greater Reset. Let me share a screen just real quick. I know everyone's ready to hop off, but this is actually an event that I'm going to next month. I'll be speaking at this event in Mexico. And this is called the Greater Reset. There's literally an entire day with multiple talks on permaculture as well. So if you are interested in permaculture and you want to come down to Mexico, this has the in-person ticket information. Let me show. And then also there's a free viewing option. So it's trying really to get this information out there for folks, whether you can come in person or if you can just watch it from the comfort of your home. All the information is here, thegreaterreset.org. I forgot to mention this earlier because we're just working on so many projects. It's hard to honestly keep up with it all. But on the topic of permaculture, it's the second day. This is literally like multiple talks. And so this will be very good for folks who want to learn more about permaculture and food independence. And then I'm actually going to be speaking at this event on the 21st on Sunday, Building Free and Conscious Communities. And so I'm really excited to share at the Greater Reset. But sign up for the website email list if you want to stay in the know, or join us in Morelia, Mexico for this exciting freedom event happening in just 1 month. So wow, time has really flown by this year. And then, of course, we are going to start sharing all the announcements about the Exit and Build Land Summit. So we have the Exit and Build Land Summit coming up May 17th through the 19th, 3-day conference with farm tours actually happening the day before and the day after those dates. So I hope you'll join us at the Bastrop Convention Center. And if all goes well, and please pray for us and that everything unfolds as we are intending. We might even be able to walk the land for this property that we have been pursuing and preparing for. And we just got approved for one of the loans we needed to get the process going and have some more leverage to get capital injected and get, this process moving forward and realistically, like actually having a offer get accepted this month. So we're working on a letter of intent, and I feel a little like it's kind of like nerve-wracking, honestly, because it's been a dream for so many years. And the fact that it's like kind of in the process of happening, it's surreal. But please pray for us. Please hold us in your thoughts. And if you would like to learn more about that project, it's exitandbuildpropertysolutions.com. I do send out a weekly email. Here, let me put it here. I know John likes to send out daily emails, and that's hard for some folks, but I just do a weekly email update, usually every Thursday or Friday at the end of the week. exitandbuildpropertysolutions.com. We are seeking partners. We would like to have a partner, multiple partners ideally, to help us, accredited investors, but we're also looking for partners to be residents on the land and to live on the land and steward the land. So there's 2 forms on the website. There's a resident form and then there's an investor form. So if you're interested in, permaculture and you want to live this lifestyle full time, we're really trying to design this in such a way that it's like spoon fed. Here's the lot, all the lots, here's the different options, here's the price points, here's the 3 approved builders. Actually, one of the talks at the Greater Reset is going to be on 3D printing housing. So that's kind of the vision. I thought would be cool to just buy a 3D printer and do like 3D printed structures. I don't know if you guys have seen those. Maybe that's a little far out there, but go Google it. It's actually really cool. And there are developments all over the world using this technology, but I digress. So if you're interested in permaculture, if this topic is something that you find intriguing or you want to dive deeper, those are a few different resources. And of course, you've got to check out the South Shore Permaculture website. So be sure to go on and join Jessica's newsletter. This is the website. Super grateful that she was on the show today. Really inspired by their work. I am ready to take a permaculture design course myself. We have our 10-acre homestead here in Central Texas. We have 3 little tiny home RV spots where other community members live. We have chickens. We have raised garden beds, some stuff planted in the ground. We have beehives. So we've made progress, but I can say firsthand how hard it is to do this. And, the more people, the more momentum, the more skill sharing, the more progress is made in a timely manner. And then, that's I think what helps to build that momentum. So that's really the goal behind the property that we're working on right now. Ideally there'd be someday 150 people living there. We'd have our food forest, we'd have the regenerative agriculture focus, co-working space, and lots of event that could be held there, whether it's the land summit or healing ceremonies, etc. So if you're interested in learning more, please join the exitandbuildpropertysolutions.com website email list. There's a resident forum, an accredited investor forum, and then you'll keep up to date with all the progress, because things are really starting to shape up and look very, very good for this endeavor. And if you want to live this lifestyle full time, we're trying to get even like 10 people who are like, yeah, I'm ready, let's do it. I'll buy a 10-acre lot, or I'll buy a 1-acre lot, and get those pre-sold and get those reserved, so that we can keep the momentum moving forward and yes, surf the wave of success. So we're always doing these freedom events. We're always doing these gardening and homesteading events. And we would like to just live this lifestyle full time with folks who are part of our Live Free Academy universe. So this is the end goal, to acquire this property and have hopefully social out there when we have the Exit and Build Land Summit in May. So maybe next time we have a podcast, next week we'll have some updates. Oh yeah, which reminds me, Kelly Krezek of New Earth Development will be on the show next week. We hired them to help us do a lot of the feasibility analysis, and their environmental engineer helped us with some of the homework to make sure this property was conducive to our goals. So she's worked on many different intentional communities, and the site plans, designs, the financial analysis, and getting all of the kind of legwork and all of that prepared, so that investors can come on board, residents can eventually have lots there, healing center can be built out, and all of this. So really excited to have her on the show. Her name's Kelly Krezek, so be on the lookout for next week's podcast, and that's going to be on Wednesday, December 20th. And yeah, we'll round out the year really strong with our interview with Kelly. And then we also have the next week, or maybe it's the week after that, Camille will be on the show. And so that's going to be exciting too, keeping that same wavelength with homesteading and making your own tinctures and natural living. And she actually lives off the grid with her partner, Samantha. And they've got really cool stories about being off the grid and alternative energy, and growing your own food and all of this. So I hope that you guys will join for those future podcasts. Thank you all so much for watching. This was episode 7 of Live Free with Rebecca Bush. Thank you for tuning in. And also one of the upcoming podcast episodes will also feature our partnership with a tiny home builder. So we're working on that this week to kind of button everything up. But if all goes well, we're actually going to have a custom Live Free tiny home that folks can order. So just off the grid, really cool options, and the blueprint's really good, and conducive to actually living in year round. So that's really exciting. John and I toured their factory a few weeks ago. I was like, whew, mind blown. But yeah, and there'll be at the land summit. So that's really exciting too. But okay, guys, woo, I feel like I've been talking a lot. I'll let you go on that note, and I'll see you next week when we interview Kelly Krezek of New Earth Development. Bye. Have a good rest of your day.